The salvage vessel, Promise of Tomorrow, drifted through the void belt like a metal insect among ancient bones. Captain Deho stood on the bridge, his eyes fixed on the scanner display. Thousands of wrecked ships floated in this graveyard, silent witnesses to wars fought before humanity ever left Earth. Most were worthless scrap, but his crew hadn't come here for scrap. "Captain, I'm getting something strange," Junho called from the navigation station. The young officer's fingers moved across his console, his face lit by blue holographic displays. "There's a massive energy signature 300 kilometers ahead. It's old, really old, but it's still active." Deho moved to stand behind Junho's chair. The scanner showed a ship enormous even by modern standards, nearly 2 kilometers long, bristling with what looked like weapons batteries covered in burn marks and impact craters. But the shape was wrong. Too aggressive, too angular. Modern ships were smooth, efficient. This thing looked like it was built for one purpose: war. "Can you identify it?" Deho asked. Hyun, the chief engineer, was already working on it. She was small, barely reaching Deho's shoulder, but she knew more about ship systems than anyone he'd ever met. "Running it through the database now. Hull configuration matches early human designs, but I've never seen anything like this. Wait, I'm getting something. Registration codes are..." "Captain, this is the HSCS Eternal Defiance." The bridge went quiet. Even Mina, the weapons officer who usually kept to herself, looked up from her station. "That's impossible," Junho said. "The Eternal Defiance was lost 400 years ago. There's barely any record of it. Just a name in an old registry." Deho stared at the image on the screen. 400 years. That was during the Dark Voyage, the century when Earth went silent and humanity nearly destroyed itself. Nobody talked about that period. The records were sealed or lost. He'd always wondered what humanity had been doing during those missing years. "Take us closer," he ordered. "Nice and slow. Hyun, I want full scans. Find out why that reactor is still putting out energy after 4 centuries. The Promise of Tomorrow moved forward, and the derelict warship grew larger in the viewports. Deho could see the details now. Armor plating thick enough to stop anything. Railgun batteries that could tear through a modern cruiser, and burn marks, thousands of them, scoring the hull in patterns that suggested battles beyond counting. "Captain, we have a problem," Mina said, her voice tight. "I'm detecting multiple ships approaching fast. Coalition signatures. Crestian fleet." Deho's jaw clenched. The Crestians were one of the 7 species that ruled the Galactic Coalition. They'd been in space for 3,000 years while humans were still living in caves. They never let humanity forget it. 6 ships appeared on the scanner, moving in formation. They were sleek, modern coalition cruisers, each one worth more than Deho's entire salvage operation. The lead ship opened a communication channel. The face that appeared on the screen was distinctly alien. Commander Veltis had the typical Crestian features: scaled skin in shades of green and gold, 3 eyes arranged in a triangle, and a crest of bone that flared when he was angry. Right now, that crest was fully extended. "Human vessel, you are ordered to cease all salvage operations immediately," Veltis said. His voice carried the arrogance that came from belonging to a species that considered itself superior. "The derelict ship you have located falls under ancient salvage rights. It predates your species' membership in the Coalition, and therefore belongs to whoever claims it first." "We are claiming it." Deho kept his face neutral. "Commander Veltis, that ship carries human registration codes. It belongs to humanity regardless of when it was built." Veltis laughed, a sound like grinding metal. "Your species has been part of the Coalition for barely 200 years. You're children playing with technology you don't understand. That warship is a relic from before your people knew how to properly navigate hyperspace. Stand down or we will remove you by force." "I don't think so," Deho said quietly. He cut the communication channel. Hyun looked at him with wide eyes. "Captain, they have 6 cruisers. We have a salvage ship with barely functional weapons. They can destroy us." "They won't," Deho said. "Not while we're this close to the derelict. They want it intact." "Hyun, how fast can you get a boarding team over there?" 10 minutes if we use the emergency airlocks." "Do it. Take whoever you need. I want that ship's systems analyzed. Find out what's keeping the reactor alive." Mina stood up from her weapons station. "I'm going with her, Captain. If that thing has any weapons we can activate, I want to know about it." Deho nodded. "Junho, keep us positioned between the Crestians and the Eternal Defiance. Make it hard for them to get a clean shot." The next hour was tense. Deho watched his scanner as the Crestian ships circled like predators. They sent smaller craft trying to reach the derelict, but Junho was good at his job. Every time a Crestian shuttle got close, the promise of tomorrow shifted position, blocking their approach. Velthis contacted them 3 more times, each message more threatening than the last. Daiho ignored them all. Finally, Hyun's voice crackled over the communication system. "Captain, you need to see this. We're on the bridge of the Eternal Defiance, and it's incredible. The technology here is at least 50 years ahead of anything we use now." "But that's not the strange part." "What's the strange part?" Daiho asked. "There are stasis pods here, Captain. Military grade, built into the bridge itself. We found 12 of them. 9 are empty. 3 are still active. There are people in them. They're alive." Daiho felt his breath catch. "Are you certain?" "The pods are working perfectly. Biosigns are stable. Captain, we can wake them up. These people have been asleep for 400 years. Dr. Somin, the ship's medical officer, had been listening. She moved to Daiho's side. "If they've been in stasis that long, they'll need careful revival. I should go over there." Daiho made his decision. "Do it. Wake them up. I want to know what happened to this ship. I want to know what humanity was doing during the dark voyage that required a warship like this." On the view screen, the Crestian fleet moved closer. Velthis was running out of patience, but Daiho didn't care. Somewhere in that ancient warship were answers. Answers about humanity's past. Answers about who they really were before they joined the coalition and started playing by everyone else's rules. The Eternal Defiance hung in space, scarred and silent, keeping its secrets. But not for much longer. The reactor pulsed with dim red light like a heartbeat waiting to wake up. The bridge of the Eternal Defiance was dark except for emergency lighting. Smoke drifted through the air, and several consoles sparked intermittently. The ship had given everything it had, and now it floated dead in space, kept alive only by backup systems. Admiral Taewon sat in the command chair, his face lit by the dim red glow of emergency lights. He looked exhausted, older than his years. Around him, both crews worked together to manage the damage. The distinction between ancient survivors and modern humans didn't matter anymore. They'd fought together, bled together, survived together. "Status report," Taewon said quietly. Hyun's voice came through the communicator, tired but alive. "Main reactor is offline and will stay that way for at least 6 hours. We pushed it way beyond safe limits. I'm honestly amazed it didn't explode. Life support is on backup power. We have maybe 12 hours of air." "Casualties?" Dr. Soman asked. 3 dead, 17 injured, came the response from the medical bay. Could have been much worse. On the main view screen, the debris field that had been the Devourer bioship slowly expanded, glowing fragments spreading across space like dying embers. Commander Velthis's fleet approached slowly, their ships also showing battle damage. Velthis opened a communication channel. His face appeared on the screen, and for the first time since Daiho had met him, the Crestian looked humble. "Admiral Taewon, Captain Daiho. My sensors confirm the hostile is destroyed. Your strategy worked." "At considerable cost," Taewon replied. "How's your fleet?" 2 ships heavily damaged, 1 will need months of repair. "But we're alive. We're all alive because of you." Velthis paused, seeming to struggle with his next words. "The Coalition owes humanity a debt. I owe you a debt. I was wrong about your people, about your ship, about everything." Taewon managed a slight smile. "We were all wrong about something, Commander. 400 years ago, humanity fought a war and forgot about it. We buried our strength because we were afraid of what it meant. But strength isn't something to fear. It's something to remember." Over the next several hours, the Crestian fleet provided emergency supplies and helped stabilize the Eternal Defiance. Repair crews worked alongside human engineers, sharing technology and techniques. The barriers between species seemed less important after facing something that wanted to consume them all. Daiho found Admiral Taewon in what had been the Admiral's quarters, a small room with personal effects that were 4 centuries old, photos of people long dead, books in old formats, a life interrupted and never resumed. "What will you do now?" Daiho asked. Taewon looked at the photos on his wall. "The world I knew is gone. Everyone I cared about is dead. My war is over, has been over for centuries. I don't belong in this time." "You could stay," Daiho said. "Help rebuild. Teach us what you know." "The Coalition saw what this ship can do. They saw what humanity was capable of when we needed to be strong." "That changes things, does it?" Taewon asked. "Or will they just be more afraid of us now?" Before Deho could answer, Junho's voice came over the communicator. Captain, you need to see this. Long-range sensors are picking up something. Multiple somethings. They rushed to the bridge. Kyung was at the sensor station, his face pale as he studied the displays. I'm detecting 3 more energy signatures. Same type as the Devourer we just killed. They're distant, maybe light years away, but they're there. Dormant, but definitely there. The bridge went silent. Captain Jiwoo spoke first. One survived from Acheron's gate. If one survived, others could have too. The war isn't over, Taewon said quietly. We thought we ended it 400 years ago. We were wrong. Commander Velthus was listening on the open channel. The Coalition needs to know about this. If there are more of these Devourers, if they wake up, we're not prepared. Nobody is prepared. Except us, Mina said, gesturing to the Eternal Defiance. This ship was built to fight them. The weapons in the vault, the systems we use today, they're all designed for this specific threat. Yan pulled up data on her console. The Eternal Defiance isn't the only ship from that era. According to these records, humanity built 27 warships for the Devourer War. We only found this one, but the others might still be out there. Damaged, abandoned, but maybe salvageable. Taewon turned to look at Deho. Captain, earlier you asked what I would do now. I think I have my answer. These ships need to be found. Their weapons need to be understood. And someone needs to teach the Coalition what humanity learned 400 years ago. How to fight for survival. You want to rebuild the fleet? Deho said. I want to make sure humanity never forgets again. Taewon replied. We buried our strength once. We made ourselves weak because we were ashamed of what we had to become. But the galaxy isn't a safe place. The Devourers proved that. And if they're still out there dormant and waiting, we need to be ready. Dr. Soman had been quiet, but now she spoke. Admiral, you've been awake for less than a day after 400 years in stasis. You fought a battle that nearly killed you. Are you sure you're making this decision with a clear mind? Taewon smiled, and this time it was genuine. Doctor, I've never been more certain of anything. 400 years ago, I went into stasis thinking my job was done, thinking humanity was safe. I was wrong then. I won't be wrong again. Captain Jiwoo and Tactical Officer Kyung stepped forward. We're with you, Admiral, Jiwoo said. Whatever you need. Velthus's voice came through the communicator. The Coalition will want to study this ship. They'll want to understand the technology. Some will want to control it. They can study it, Taewon said. They can learn from it. But the Eternal Defiance belongs to humanity. These weapons, this knowledge, it's ours. We paid for it in blood. Agreed, Velthus said, surprising everyone. I will report to the Coalition Council that humanity possesses defensive technology critical to galactic security. I will recommend full partnership status for your species, with voting rights and resource allocation. What you did here today, what this ship represents, it changes everything. Deho felt something shift inside him. For 200 years, humanity had been the junior partner in the Coalition, always asking permission, always being told they weren't ready, weren't advanced enough. Now, because of a ship that should have been forgotten, because of an admiral who'd been asleep for 4 centuries, everything was different. We'll need to tow the Eternal Defiance back to Earth, Deho said. Repair it properly, study its systems, and then start looking for the other ships. And we'll need to establish protocols, Taewon added. Training programs. Share what we know about the Devourers with the Coalition. If those dormant bioships wake up, everyone needs to be ready. Over the next few days, plans were made. The Eternal Defiance would be towed to Earth's orbital shipyards. The Coalition agreed to provide resources for repairs in exchange for access to the ship's defensive technology. Admiral Taewon would serve as an advisor, teaching modern humans the lessons learned from a war they'd forgotten. But before returning to stasis for the long journey home, Taewon called Deho to the bridge one last time. The stars were visible through the viewport, countless points of light in the endless dark. Captain Deho, I need you to understand something, Taewon said. The people of my time, we became something terrible to fight the Devourers. We built weapons that could destroy worlds. We made decisions that cost millions of lives. We won, but we lost something important in the process. That's why Earth buried the records, not just because they were afraid of the Devourers coming back, but because they were afraid of what we'd become. But you had no choice, Deho said. You did what you had to do to survive. Yes, but survival isn't enough. When you rebuild this fleet, when you train the new crews, remember that. Be strong enough to fight, but don't lose what makes you human. The Devourers are monsters. We don't have to become monsters to beat them. Deho nodded slowly. I understand. Taewon looked out at the stars. 400 years ago, I thought humanity's greatest strength was our ability to build terrible weapons. Now I think our greatest strength is our ability to choose when to use them. The Coalition learned that today. They saw us fight, but they also saw us choose peace when the battle was over. What do you think will happen now? Deho asked. I think humanity just became dangerous, Taewon said. And in this galaxy, dangerous species are the ones that survive. But more importantly, I think humanity just proved we're not the weak children the Coalition thought we were. We're something else. Something older and harder than they knew. The Eternal Defiance floated in space, damaged but unbroken. Around it, Coalition ships waited, no longer as conquerors but as allies. And deep in space, light years away, 3 dormant Devourer bioships pulsed with faint energy, sleeping but not dead. The old war wasn't over. It had only been waiting. And now humanity remembered what they'd forgotten. They knew how to fight. They knew how to win. And most importantly, they knew they were never as weak as others believed. The Eternal Defiance would fly again, and it wouldn't fly alone. Dr. Soman worked carefully, her hand steady as she adjusted the controls on the stasis pod. The medical bay of the Eternal Defiance was nothing like modern facilities. Everything was built heavier, stronger, designed to work even when the ship was falling apart around it. The pod itself was a masterpiece of engineering, still functioning perfectly after 4 centuries. Starting the revival sequence now, she said into her communicator. Captain Deho was listening from the promise of tomorrow, along with everyone else who wasn't on the derelict. Heart rate increasing, brain activity rising. This is actually working. The pod's frost-covered glass began to clear. Soman could see the face inside now. A man probably in his 50s with gray hair and a face marked by old scars. He wore a uniform she didn't recognize. Dark blue with silver insignia. On his chest was a name tag, Admiral Taewon. The pod opened with a hiss of escaping air. The man inside gasped, his eyes snapping open. For a moment he just stared at the ceiling, breathing hard. Then he tried to sit up, moving with the careful precision of someone who'd been trained to wake up ready for battle. Easy, Soman said, putting a hand on his shoulder. You're safe. You've been in stasis for a long time. The man looked at her, his eyes sharp and alert despite just waking up. He spoke, but the words were strange. Korean. But an old dialect mixed with English in ways that modern people didn't use anymore. Soman's translator struggled to keep up. Where am I? What's the date? Where's my crew? You're on the HSCS Eternal Defiance, Soman said slowly. The date is October 4th, 2847. You've been in stasis for 412 years. Admiral Taewon went very still. His face showed no emotion, but Soman could see his hands trembling slightly. 400 years, he repeated. The war. Did we win? Are the Devourers gone? Devourers? Soman frowned. I don't know what you're talking about. What Devourers? The Admiral's expression changed to confusion, then something darker. Anger, maybe, or betrayal. You don't know. They didn't tell you. They buried it all. Over the next hour, Somin revived 2 more survivors. Captain Jiwoo, a woman in her 40s with hard eyes and scars that suggested she'd seen terrible things. And Tactical Officer Ki-young, younger, maybe 30, but with the same haunted look as the others. All 3 had the same reaction when they learned how much time had passed. Shock, then anger, then a cold determination that worried Soman. Captain Deho came aboard the Eternal Defiance to meet them. He found Admiral Taewon on the bridge, standing at what must have been the command station. The old admiral was running his hands over the controls, his face showing a mix of grief and something like relief. Admiral Taewon, Deho said, I'm Captain Deho of the salvage vessel Promise of Tomorrow. I have a lot of questions. Taewon turned to look at him. I'm sure you do. Let me guess. The Coalition found this ship and wants to take it. They think humanity is too weak to deserve it. Deho blinked. How did you know? Because nothing changes, Taewon said bitterly. 400 years and humanity is still being pushed around. Tell me, Captain, are we still at the bottom of the galactic hierarchy? Still being treated like children who don't understand how the universe works? We're a junior member of the Coalition, Deho admitted. We've been part of it for 200 years, but yes, most species treat us like we're inferior. Taewon laughed, but there was no humor in it. They don't remember. Or they never knew. Probably both. Remember what? Deho asked. The Admiral was quiet for a long moment. Then he spoke, his voice low and intense. 400 years ago, humanity encountered a species we called the Devourers. They were like nothing we'd ever seen. Part machine, part organic, part something else entirely. They consumed everything. Planets, civilizations, entire star systems. They'd appear, strip a world down to bedrock, and move on. Captain Jiwoo had entered the bridge, along with Kyung. They both nodded as Taiwan spoke, their faces grim. Earth sent a fleet, Taewon continued. 27 warships, the best we could build. Experimental technology. Weapons we developed in secret. We had to move fast because the Devourers were heading toward our colonies. We intercepted them at a system called Acheron's Gate. What happened? Daeho asked, though part of him wasn't sure he wanted to know. We fought for 3 weeks, Jiwoo said, her voice flat. 27 ships against a Devourer swarm fleet. We lost 26 ships, every single one except the Eternal Defiance. 50,000 crew members died. But we stopped them. We killed every last Devourer ship. Kyung picked up the story. The cost was too high. Earth was traumatized. The government decided that knowledge of the Devourers would destroy morale, maybe even cause panic or social collapse. So they classified everything, erased the records, told everyone the fleet was lost in a reactor accident. They put us in stasis, Taewon said. Told us we'd be honored heroes when they were ready to reveal the truth. I guess they never got ready. Daeho felt like the floor had dropped out from under him. This is impossible. A war like that. Humanity fighting alone against an extinction-level threat. We would have records, stories, something. You have this ship, Taewon said, gesturing around the bridge. You have us. And if you check the weapons bay, you'll find technology that your coalition friends would kill to possess. Before Daeho could respond, Mina's voice came over his communicator, urgent and afraid. Captain, the Crestians are moving. They're launching boarding craft. Looks like they're done waiting. Taewon's expression changed instantly, shifting from tired old soldier to combat commander. How many ships? 6 cruisers, Daeho said. They want this ship. Their commander said it belongs to whoever claims it first. Does this ship have power? Taewon asked. Hyun's voice came through the communicator. The reactor is active but running at maybe 5% capacity. I can boost it, but it'll take time. Taewon nodded. How much time? An hour, maybe 2. We don't have 2 hours, Mina said. The boarding craft will be here in 10 minutes. Taewon looked at Jiwoo and Kyung. Something passed between them, some unspoken understanding. Then the Admiral turned to Daeho. Captain, I need you to trust me. I can repel these boarders using only the ship's secondary systems. But you need to give me command of this vessel. Daeho hesitated. He didn't know this man. Didn't know if he was stable after 4 centuries in stasis. But looking into Taewon's eyes, he saw something that decided it for him. Competence, experience. The absolute certainty of someone who'd faced worse than this and survived. The ship is yours, Admiral, Daeho said. Taewon sat down in the command chair like he'd never left. His hands moved over controls that should have been unfamiliar after so long. But he operated them with perfect precision. Jiwoo, tactical. Kyung, sensors and countermeasures. Let's show these coalition fools what humanity looked like when we fought for our survival. The Crestian boarding craft approached the Eternal Defiance, expecting an easy capture. Instead, they found a ship that suddenly wasn't as dead as it looked. The ancient warship's point defense systems came online, weapons that made modern coalition technology look primitive. What followed wasn't a battle. It was a massacre. The Crestian boarding craft never stood a chance. Point defense turrets that had been silent for 4 centuries suddenly roared to life, tracking targets with machine precision. Railgun rounds, each one accelerated to incredible speeds, tore through shields and armor like they weren't even there. In the space of 3 minutes, 12 boarding craft became clouds of debris. On the bridge of his cruiser, Commander Velthus watched in disbelief as his assault force was destroyed. That's impossible, he said to nobody in particular. That ship has been dead for centuries. Admiral Taewon sat in the command chair of the Eternal Defiance, his face calm. Captain Daeho, I suggest you move your ship away from the combat zone. Things are about to get unpleasant. Daeho, standing near the weapons console with Mina, nodded to Junho over the communicator. The promise of tomorrow began moving to a safer distance. Veltus opened a channel, His alien face twisted with rage. Human vessel, you have destroyed Coalition property and killed Coalition military personnel. This is an act of war. Taewon leaned forward slightly. No, Commander. This is a response to an unprovoked attack on a human warship. You fired first when you launched your boarding craft. We simply defended ourselves. And if you don't leave immediately, we'll do more than defend. You're bluffing, Veltis said. That ship is centuries old. You can't possibly have enough power to threaten my fleet. Taewon smiled, and it wasn't a pleasant expression.
Shall we test that theory?
Veltis cut the channel. On the tactical display, Daeho could see the Crestian cruisers spreading out, preparing for a coordinated attack. 6 modern warships against 1 ancient derelict. The odds should have been impossible. Admiral, Hyun's voice came through the communicator. She was still down in engineering, working frantically. I need more time. The reactor is responding, but if you push it too hard right now, it could overload. How much time? Taewon asked. 30 minutes minimum for stable combat power. Taewon looked at the tactical display. We don't have 30 minutes. Give me what you can. Over the next 20 minutes, Daeho watched something he would never forget. Admiral Taewon commanded the Eternal Defiance with a skill that seemed impossible. The ship moved despite its damaged state, positioning itself perfectly. Every shot counted. Every defensive maneuver was timed to perfection. The Crestian cruisers opened fire with everything they had. Plasma torpedoes, antimatter missiles, particle beams, modern coalition weapons representing 3,000 years of technological development. The barrage was enough to destroy a dozen ships. The Eternal Defiance's shields absorbed it all. The technology was old, yes, but it was built by humans who knew they might face enemies that wanted to exterminate them. Every system had redundancies. Every defensive layer was designed to take punishment that would annihilate modern vessels. Then the ancient warship returned fire. Mina was watching the weapons display with wide eyes. Captain, these railgun systems are insane. Each round is moving at 15% of light speed. The Crestian shields aren't designed to handle kinetic impacts like this. One of Veltis's cruisers took a direct hit. The railgun round punched through its shields, through its armor, and out the other side. The ship began venting atmosphere, spinning out of control. They're withdrawing, Jiwoo reported from the tactical station. But Taewon shook his head. No, they're regrouping. Veltis is too proud to retreat after losing face like this. He'll come back with a different strategy. He was right. The Crestian fleet pulled back, but only to reposition. Veltis opened a channel again, and this time he looked different. Less arrogant. More calculating. I underestimated you, Veltis admitted. But you can't win this fight. Even if you destroy my fleet, the Coalition will send more ships. Hundreds of them, if necessary. That warship belongs in a museum, and you belong in a detention facility for attacking Coalition forces. We didn't attack anyone, Daeho said, stepping into view of the communication pickup. We defended ourselves. There's a difference. Your opinion is irrelevant, human, Veltis replied. You have 1 hour to surrender the ship and all personnel aboard. After that, I will destroy both vessels. Admiral Taewon can be a hero remembered in history, or he can be dust. His choice, the channel closed. Daeho looked at Taewon. Can we actually fight off 6 cruisers? With full power, yes, Taewon said. Without it, we can hurt them badly, but they'll eventually overwhelm us. The question is whether we want to start a war with the Coalition. Dr. Soman had been quiet until now, but she spoke up. Admiral, you've been in stasis for over 400 years. You woke up to find your war forgotten, your sacrifice erased. Now you're being threatened by aliens who think humans are weak. I understand why you're angry. But is this really the fight you want? Taewon was quiet for a long moment. When he spoke, his voice was tired. No, it's not. But I won't surrender this ship to them either. This vessel represents something important. It's proof that humanity can build things that last, that we can fight when we need to, that we're not weak. Hyun's voice interrupted. Captain Admiral, I think you need to come down to the weapons bay. I found something. Daeho, Taewon, and Mina made their way through the ship's corridors. Despite 4 centuries of floating in space, the Eternal Defiance was still impressive. The walls were thick. The corridors were wide enough to move equipment or wounded soldiers. Everything was built to military specifications that made modern civilian vessels look fragile. The weapons bay was enormous. Racks of missiles, railgun ammunition, and equipment Daeho didn't recognize. Hyun was standing near a sealed vault, her tablet displaying technical specifications that made no sense. Look at this, she said, gesturing to the vault. These are marked as Devourer-class threat response only. The technology inside is at least a century ahead of anything the Coalition uses. Weapons designed to fight something that modern species don't even know exists. Taewon walked to the vault and placed his hand on a scanner. It recognized him immediately, despite 400 years passing. The vault opened, revealing weapons that looked more like works of art than instruments of war. Resonance bombs, Taewon said quietly. They target specific biological signatures. We designed them to kill devourers without destroying everything around them. They worked, but we only built 12. This ship is carrying 6 of them. Why would you need these now? Daeho asked. Kyung, who had followed them down, was checking a sensor panel. His face went pale. Admiral, we have a problem. Long-range sensors are detecting something at the edge of the system. The signature matches devourer bioships. Everyone froze. Taewon moved quickly to the sensor panel, his hands flying over the controls. Show me. The display lit up with sensor data. Something massive was entering the system, moving slowly but with clear purpose. The energy signature was unlike anything in Coalition databases, but it matched perfectly with the old records stored in the Eternal Defiance's computer. How is this possible? Jiwoo asked. We killed them all. Every single devourer ship at Acheron's gate. Taewon's face was grim. We thought we did. But if even one survived, it could have been waiting. Dormant. And this ship's reactor coming online, that energy signature, it would be like a beacon, something the devourers would recognize. Daeho felt cold. How long until it reaches us? At its current speed, 6 hours, Kyung said. Mina looked at the weapons in the vault. Can we fight it? Taewon didn't answer immediately. He was staring at the sensor display, his expression unreadable. Finally, he spoke. Yes, but not alone. Captain Daeho, I need you to contact Commander Veltis. Tell him the clock just ran out on our little dispute. We have a much bigger problem heading our way. Commander Veltis didn't believe them at first. When Daeho contacted him and explained about the Devourer bioship, the Christian's response was predictable. This is a trick, Veltis said, his crest flaring. You're trying to distract us while you escape. Send a scout ship to the coordinates I'm transmitting, Daeho replied. Check the sensor data yourself. We're sending you our records from the Eternal Defiance's database. Look at what humanity fought 400 years ago, then look at what's coming toward us now. Veltis was silent for a moment, probably reviewing the data. When he spoke again, his voice had changed. The arrogance was gone, replaced by something Daeho had never heard from a Christian before. Uncertainty. This is impossible. A bioship of this size, the technology required to build something like that, it shouldn't exist. It exists, Admiral Taewon said, his face appearing on the communication channel, and in approximately 5 hours it will reach this system and start converting everything into raw materials. Your ships, my ship, the asteroids, everything, unless we stop it. How? Veltis asked. My fleet is powerful, but our weapons are designed to fight other ships, not living organisms the size of moons. We have weapons that can kill it, Taewon said, but the Eternal Defiance needs to get close. Very close, and we'll need your fleet to keep the Devourer's attention while we maneuver into position. Veltis's 3 eyes narrowed. You're asking me to trust you? To work with humans who just destroyed my boarding force? I'm asking you to survive, Taewon said simply. Your choice, Commander. The channel went silent. Daeho could imagine what was going through Veltis's mind. Pride versus survival. The Christians had ruled space for millennia. Working with humans, accepting help from a species they considered inferior, it must have been painful. Finally, Veltis responded. What do you need us to do? Over the next 4 hours, both crews prepared for battle. Hyun worked miracles in the Eternal Defiance's engineering section, bringing systems online that hadn't functioned in centuries. The ship's main reactor climbed to 40% power, then 60, then 80. I can give you full power, Hyun told Taewon over the communicator, but only for about 30 minutes. After that, we'll need to shut down for cooling or the reactor will go critical. 30 minutes will be enough, Taewon said. One way or another. The ship's AI, Aegis, came fully online as the reactor reached operational levels. Its voice echoed through every corridor, calm and precise. All systems nominal. Weapons batteries charging. Shield generators at maximum capacity. Welcome back, Admiral. It's been 412 years, 3 months, and 17 days since our last conversation. Taewon smiled slightly. It's good to hear your voice, Aegis. Prepare for combat operations. Enemy is Devourer-class bioship. Estimated mass 3 kilometers approaching from Galactic North. Understood. Analyzing threat profile. Recommend close-range engagement with resonance weapons. Probability of success, 62%. Better odds than we had at Acheron's Gate, Jiwoo muttered. The modern crew worked alongside the ancient survivors, learning systems they'd never seen before. Mina took control of the main weapons, with Jiwoo guiding her through the targeting protocols. Junho worked with Kyung on navigation, plotting attack vectors that seemed suicidal. Dr. Somin set up emergency medical stations throughout the ship. She knew casualties were inevitable. Ships like the Eternal Defiance were built to take damage and keep fighting, but the crew inside would suffer. Deho found himself in a strange position. This was still technically his salvage operation, but Admiral Taewon was clearly in command now. The old admiral moved with confidence, giving orders that the crew followed without question. This was a man who had commanded ships in battles where the fate of humanity hung in the balance. Captain Deho, Taewon said during a brief quiet moment, when this is over, assuming we survive, I want you to know something. What you did, refusing to surrender this ship to the Crestians, that took courage. 400 years ago, humanity had that courage. I'm glad to see it hasn't disappeared. Before Deho could respond, Aegis's voice cut through the bridge. Enemy vessel entering weapons range. Devourer bioship confirmed. Mass estimate revised, 3.2 kilometers. Detecting drone deployment. Count is 100 and increasing. On the main view screen, the Devourer appeared. It was horrible to look at. Part of it was clearly mechanical, with metal structures and weapon ports, but large sections were organic, pulsing with something that might have been biological processes. The whole thing moved like it was alive, like it was breathing. It's beautiful in a terrible way, Mina whispered. The Devourer didn't communicate. It simply began its work. Drones poured from openings in its hull, each one heading toward the nearest asteroid. They landed, burrowed inside, and began the conversion process. Within minutes, the first asteroid was being broken down into constituent elements. Crestian fleet, begin your attack run, Taewon ordered. Draw its attention. Make it focus on you. Veltus's ships moved forward, weapons firing. Plasma torpedoes struck the Devourer's hull, causing minor damage. Particle beams carved lines across its surface. But the bioship barely seemed to notice. It continued deploying drones, continued its harvest. It's not taking the bait, Veltus said over the channel. We're hitting it with everything we have and it's ignoring us. Keep firing, Taewon said. Aegis, take us in. Full power to engines and shields. Weapons free. The Eternal Defiance surged forward. After 4 centuries of silence, the ancient warship moved like it had never stopped. Engines that shouldn't have worked burned bright. Shields that should have failed held steady. The Devourer noticed. Some of its drones changed course, heading toward the approaching warship. But Taewon had anticipated this. Point defense engage. Clear us a path. Automated turrets opened fire, tracking dozens of targets simultaneously. Drones exploded, their remains scattering across space. More came. The Eternal Defiance kept moving forward, shields absorbing impacts, weapons clearing obstacles. Main cannon charged, Mina reported. Target locked! Fire! Taewon ordered. The Stellar Lance, the Eternal Defiance's primary weapon, discharged. A beam of fused matter, concentrated to incredible density, struck the Devourer bioship dead center. The impact carved a canyon through its hull, vaporizing organic and mechanical components alike. The Devourer screamed. The sound came through multiple wavelengths, including some that human ears couldn't detect, but could feel. It was a sound of rage and pain. It's turning toward us, Kyung reported. We have its full attention now. Good, Taewon said calmly. Junho, bring us around to attack Vector 7. Mina, prepare the resonance bomb. We're going in. The Devourer opened fire with weapons that made Coalition technology look primitive. Energy beams that could destroy planets. Biological missiles that could adapt to any defense. Gravity weapons that could crush a ship like an empty can. The Eternal Defiance took damage. Hull breaches appeared on multiple decks. Shield generators overloaded. But the ship kept moving, kept fighting because it was built for this. Built to face enemies that wanted to end humanity's existence. We're at point-blank range, Junho said. His voice was steady despite the ship shaking around them. Taewon looked at Mina. Launch the resonance bomb. All remaining power to engines. The moment that weapon is away, we run. Mina's fingers moved across the weapon's console. Bomb away! The resonance weapon looked small as it flew toward the Devourer bioship. Just a missile, maybe 3 meters long. It didn't seem like much compared to the massive target. It struck the Devourer's hull and penetrated deep inside before detonating. For 5 seconds, nothing happened. The Devourer continued its attack. Its weapons kept firing. Its drones kept deploying. Then it started to die. The scream that came from the bioship was nothing like before. This was agony. The resonance bomb had found its biological core and was tearing it apart at the molecular level. The Devourer's hull began to collapse inward. Organic sections dissolving, mechanical components failing as their living controls died. Get us out of here, Tae-1 ordered. Maximum speed. The Eternal Defiance turned and burned, engines pushing beyond safe limits. Behind them, the Devourer bioship consumed itself, biological and mechanical systems failing in a cascade that couldn't be stopped. When the bioship finally exploded, the shockwave was visible across the entire system, a flash of energy that briefly outshone the local star. Then silence. The Eternal Defiance drifted, reactor offline, systems failing one by one. But the crew was alive, and the Devourer was dead.